Welcome to From Manuscript to Ministry, created and produced by Elder William Moore, the podcast where faith meets the written word. Each week, your hosts David and Martha dive into powerful, self-published books by Christian authors who are boldly using their God-given voices to impact the kingdom. Whether you're an aspiring writer, a reader seeking spiritual growth, or a ministry leader in search of authentic resources, this is your space to be inspired, encouraged, and equipped. Let's explore today's featured book and uncover the life-changing message behind the manuscript.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking on a topic that I think is deeply personal for a lot of people.
It really is.
We're digging into a stack of source material that's both, theological but also just intensely motivational, and we're trying to answer a single question for you.
And that question is, how do you reclaim that extraordinary future you once believed God planted inside you?
Right, especially after things like fear or disappointment or just years of delay have maybe shrunk that vision down to something, well, manageable.
Or silenced it completely.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to really understand the spiritual mechanics of, for lack of a better word, divine dreaming.
Okay, so where are we pulling from?
We're primarily looking at two interconnected works. First, some foundational excerpts from a book called Divine Vision, The Heart of the Dreamer.
Oh.
But crucially, we're also drawing a lot of really surprising wisdom from a specific reflective series.
Which one is that?
It's titled From Ordinary to Extraordinary, 33 Motivational Quotes from Judges 6.12.
Okay, so that's the Gideon source. That's important because it grounds this whole conversation in the reality of, the ordinary person.
Exactly. We're not just talking about prophets and patriarchs who seem destined for greatness from day one.
No, we're looking at Gideon, a man who is literally hiding in a wine press, and then he hears an angel call him a mighty man of valor.
And that contrast, that juxtaposition between those two realities, the hidden person and the recognized potential, that's the core tension we need to resolve today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the primary goal for you listening is to walk away equipped, not just with knowledge, but with courage.
We want you to feel like you can revisit those dormant visions, and that doing so is an act of faith, of spiritual obedience, really.
It's a huge challenge, isn't it? To align the person you are today with the potential God saw in you, maybe years ago.
A massive challenge.
So let's frame this with the core concept that's really driving this deep dive. The quote that anchors our whole discussion. Dare to dream, for the mighty dwell within the dreamer's heart.
I love that. It reframes everything.
It does. It establishes that dreaming isn't just fantasy.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally an act of divine permission. It's like a spiritual dare.
And the moment you accept that dare, you're immediately moving out of the realm of wishful thinking and into the reality of your destiny.
So when the source calls it divine permission, that just changes the whole conversation.
It completely changes it. It's no longer about you trying to hustle or generate enough ambition to achieve something huge.
Right.
It implies two things that just shift the entire burden. First, that the dream itself is sanctioned by God, maybe even, mandated.
In a second.
Second, that the potential you need to actually realize it, that mighty capacity, it's already inside you.
Right.
It's resident.
And that's where the power is. You're not starting from zero. You're just aligning with the potential that's already there. But if you don't accept that, if you see your dreams as just your own little ideas, then of course fear and disappointment are going to shut them down.
Of course. They feel justified. But if it's an act of spiritual obedience, well, then not pursuing the dream is failing to align with the greatness God already placed within you.
So that raises the big question then. If this mighty thing already dwells within us, why do so many people live lives that feel, well, so small?
I think the answer is often found in that gap between the vision and the maturity of the dreamer. And that's where we have to start our first major examination.
Okay, let's do it. Let's move to what the sources call the foundational case study for this whole idea. Joseph's journey. It starts in Genesis chapter 37, and it's just this shocking example of an early vision being planted in a totally unprepared person.
And the context is so critical here. We have to understand his stage of life. He's 17 years old.
Just a kid.
Just a kid. He's the privileged son, his dad's favorite. He's got this fancy coat. And he is, let's be honest, undeniably immature.
He has shown zero leadership, no wisdom, no tested integrity, nothing.
And it's at this precise moment of, you could call it youthful arrogance, that he starts getting these cosmic, life-altering dreams.
And they're not small dreams. They are dreams of political and social domination. His brothers, sheaves, the sun, the moon, his parents, everyone is bowing down to him.
It's audacious.
So the key insight the source material pulls from this story is simple but profound. God plants vision early, long before maturity, long before you have any influence, and certainly long before you get any recognition.
Joseph dreamed before he ruled. That's the line. His royal identity, his future as this powerful governor and savior, was established in the dream before it ever showed up in his life.
And that creates this huge tension, doesn't it? Theologically and even psychologically.
A massive tension. For anyone listening who's waiting until they feel qualified or recognized or mature enough to accept a really big vision, Joseph's life is a major course correction.
Right, because the dream often arrives precisely because you're not mature enough to handle it.
Yes. The vision itself is the tool. It's the mechanism that kicks off the whole refining process.
Let's think about the timing of that. I mean, it makes practical sense. If you receive a vision at age 20 for a 40-year career of global influence, then that time in between, those 20 years, they have to be dedicated to building your capacity to handle it.
The dream comes early because the journey is long and complex, and it requires profound change in the dreamer. The vision is what justifies the intense and, let's face it, often traumatic training period that comes next.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, these early visions, they're what the source calls destiny language.
A seed of a calling. It's like an advance notice of an irrevocable spiritual contract you've entered into.
But the purpose of that vision is definitely not to make your life easy.
Not at all. In Joseph's case, the dream initiated immediate trauma. Alienation, jealousy. He's thrown into a pit and then sold into slavery.
The second he shared that dream, he wasn't celebrated. He was met with murderous rage, betrayal from the people closest to him.
The dream immediately yanked him out of his comfortable, entitled life, stripped him of all his protection, and put him in the hands of people who actively wanted to destroy his potential.
And that's the implication we really have to stress here. If you have a profound, God-given dream, you cannot expect it to land softly.
No. It's going to attract opposition because it represents the highest and best use of your life. The dream itself starts a process of development that almost always involves conflict.
And it often involves stripping away that childish immaturity or your reliance on what other people think. Joseph had to lose the coat.
He had to. He had to lose that external symbol of favor before he could even start the internal work required to one day wear the robes of a governor.
So the dream is like a spiritual magnet.
That's a great way to put it.
It attracts the very circumstances, the trials, the betrayals that are required to forge the character you need to handle the vision.
It forces you to rely on a power that's so much greater than your own youthful enthusiasm. It's like being handed the schematics for a nuclear reactor when you've only ever managed a flashlight battery.
Yeah. The vision just completely overwhelms your current capacity.
And that forces this necessary, accelerated, and often very painful growth.
Precisely. The fact that the vision comes before the capacity is even there. It guarantees you can't do it in your own strength.
Which is the entire point. God plants the vision to make sure you stay dependent on his timing and his provision, not your own hurried efforts.
So it establishes your identity, that royal identity, long before your circumstances ever confirm it.
And that early vision becomes the anchor. It's the non-negotiable thing that drags you through all those turbulent years of development. Without that dream, Joseph would have had nothing to hold on to in the pit or in the prison.
Okay, so that brings us right back to that core idea. Dare to dream, for the mighty dwell within the dreamer's heart. Now, with Joseph, we see a character who, maybe needed a little humility before he got the dream.
You could say that.
But now we have to flip to the other side of the coin. The person who doesn't need humility, but needs conviction.
The ordinary person who is actively minimizing the potential inside them.
And this is where our source material on Gideon from the book of Judges becomes so essential.
Yes. The source talks directly about this concept of hidden greatness dwelling within ordinary people.
So if Joseph started with too much confidence and not enough maturity.
Gideon started with zero confidence and profound insecurity. He's introduced to us in Judges 6, and he is literally hiding in a winepress threshing wheat so the Midianites won't see him.
And then what happens?
An angel of the Lord appears and says, "The Lord is with you, mighty man of valor."
Which is just. It's the ultimate example of recognizing that royal identity before any recognition exists. He's being called mighty while he's doing the most timid, fear-driven task you can imagine.
Key irony is so profound, and it's the key to understanding this whole mighty within concept.
And what's Gideon's response?
It's heartbreaking, really. He says, "Oh Lord, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, and I am the least in my father's house."
So he just actively rejects it. He minimizes himself in 3 straight layers: his own ability, his family status, and his tribe's influence.
He is the perfect picture of the listener who has let fear and disappointment shrink their vision down to nothing.
He does not believe the mighty dwells within him. Not for a second.
His immediate default is to look at his current situation, his weakness, his poverty, his insignificance, and use all of that as evidence to reject the divine vision.
So this helps us really define our terms then.
Yes. The hidden greatness is that established, unchangeable divine capacity, you could call it the internal hardware, that God places inside people.
Okay, the hardware.
And the divine vision is like the software. It's the map that activates that hardware and points it toward a specific purpose.
So Gideon had the hardware, the capacity for valor, but he'd buried it under just layers of fear and, what was probably generational failure.
Exactly. So if the vision you have feels massive, it's not because you are massive right now.
Right.
It's because the mighty, that divine potential, is already resident inside you, just waiting to be activated. The dream is the map to the treasure that's already buried in your heart.
Whether you're an immature Joseph or an insecure Gideon?
It doesn't matter. The principle is the same.
And this is where that crucial distinction comes in between faith and arrogance, or, personal ambition.
For Gideon, daring to dream was an act of raw, terrifying faith. It was a courageous agreement with God's view of his future, which was in violent contradiction to how he saw himself right now.
That's a great way to put it. Ambition looks at your current resources and makes a plan based on that.
Right. Faith looks at the divine promise and trusts that the resources will show up when they're needed.
And that leads us straight to the idea of responsibility. Why does fear attack the dreams of people like Gideon so violently?
Because God-given dreams carry significant stewardship, not entitlement.
Explain that.
Gideon's dream wasn't just about him getting a cool new title. It was about him leading 300 men to liberate an entire nation from 7 years of oppression.
That is a heavy weight of responsibility.
An immense weight. And the natural human instinct is to shrink away from that kind of weight.
So fear becomes the primary counterforce.
It attacks the dreamer by convincing them that minimizing the vision is the safer, more rational choice.
It's that voice that says, "I'm the least in my father's house," or "I should probably aim a little lower so I don't fail in front of everybody."
It's a deep-seated defense mechanism. It's meant to protect you from future pain, and maybe more importantly, from massive responsibility.
It's like a spiritual retraction.
Yeah.
It's your internal voice saying, "Okay, I saw the glorious future you promised, God, but the cost looks too high.
The risk of failure is too public, so I'm just going to pretend I never saw it."
Fear convinces us that shrinking the vision is safer than walking through the fire you need to walk through to fulfill it.
But when you minimize the dream, you are minimizing the potential of the mighty that's dwelling inside you. And you're also depriving the world of the stewardship that vision was meant to deliver.
So the tragedy is twofold, according to the sources.
Yes. First, the dreamer lives below their spiritual identity. And second, the community, or maybe even the world, loses the benefit of that fulfilled vision.
And it doesn't matter if you're avoiding that responsibility out of immaturity, like a young Joseph might have, or out of profound insecurity, like Gideon.
The result is the same. The mighty within remains dormant.
Okay, so if the dream is the mandate and fear is the first hurdle, then delay. Delay is the proving ground. We have to talk about the reality that dreams get tested before they get fulfilled. The source material is so clear on this. God doesn't abandon dreams.
No. He refines the dreamer through the process of time and opposition.
And we so often confuse delay with denial, don't we?
All the time. When a God-given dream takes years or even decades to materialize, our natural conclusion is, I must have been wrong.
Or God changed his mind. This was just a fantasy.
But the reflections we're looking at show that this testing, it doesn't just happen once. It happens in these predictable, necessary stages that you can see in both Joseph's and Gideon's lives.
So let's break down the mechanics of that refinement process.
Yeah.
The sources highlight 3 really common stages of testing. What's the first one?
First, dreams are misunderstood, or even scoffed at, and usually by your closest circle.
Joseph's brothers.
Or Gideon's family and villagers who were protecting the idols he was told to tear down. This first stage teaches the dreamer to rely on their internal certainty, not on external validation from other people.
Okay, so they're misunderstood. What's next?
Second, dreams are mocked or opposed violently. Joseph is betrayed, thrown in a pit, sold, and eventually imprisoned. Gideon is asked to go fight a massive army with just a handful of men. It's an invitation to what looks like certain death.
And what does that test?
It tests your reliance on God's protection. It forces you to act from a place of courage even when the odds are impossible.
And the final stage.
And finally, dreams require patience for refinement. This is the long-forgotten years in Potiphar's house. Or for Gideon, that agonizing process of waiting for confirmation with the fleece.
This is what strips away our reliance on quick fixes.
Exactly. It cultivates spiritual endurance.
And all of this brings us to that core concept.
Yeah.
Delay is development, not denial.
That's it. The waiting period serves a vital function. It's shaping your heart, your capacity, your perspective before the dream is actually fulfilled.
We have to be really specific about what Joseph learned during that long delay. I mean, if he had gone straight from the pasture to the palace,
it would have been a disaster. He would have been spiritually unprepared and politically dangerous, a self-centered teenager with immense power.
He would have run the entire empire based on his personal grievances, not on a mission of divine preservation.
The testing had to teach him humility, discernment, emotional control, and just basic administrative capacity in a high-pressure environment like Potiphar's house.
And then in a prison. The prison years were like the ultimate leadership seminar, right?
They really were. He's learning how to manage people, time, and resources when he has absolutely nothing external to leverage. No title, no money, no freedom.
So the prison time provided the stewardship training.
That's what the source says. God shapes the dreamer's inner character and their capacity for stewardship before years. He tests them with the actualization of the vision.
So if the dream is the seed of the calling,
the delay is the necessary stewardship training.
Okay, let's break down the psychological stages of that refinement, because there's a measurable journey from a victim mentality to a steward mentality.
Yeah.
When Joseph was first sold, he was a victim. His focus was on what he'd lost, his rights, the injustice.
Understandably so.
But then look at his behavior in prison. He's managing the whole facility with integrity. He's organizing the inmates. He's using his gift dream interpretation to serve other people.
The butler and the baker.
Right. And he gains nothing from it immediately.
And that is the essential transition. A victim asks, why is this happening to me?
A steward asks.
A steward asks, given the circumstances I am in, what am I responsible for managing right now?
Joseph shifted his focus. He stopped focusing on his circumstances and started focusing on his integrity and his capacity to serve, even in what you called a corporate prison cell.
And that focus on stewardship, on managing the little he had with faithfulness, is exactly what prepared him to manage Pharaoh's entire kingdom.
So if you're listening right now, and you're in a period of delay, maybe in your career, a ministry, a creative project, you have to use this as a marker.
You have to ask yourself, is this delay refining my capacity, or am I just resisting the lesson?
Am I learning patience? Am I learning to manage the small things with integrity? Or am I just getting frustrated and looking for the exit sign on this whole vision?
And this is where that profound loss and regret, which so many listener reflections mention, comes into play.
Right.
Regret is usually the recognition years later that the mighty thing inside you was allowed to wither away simply because the path got too hard or it took too long.
You focused on your rights as a victim instead of your responsibilities as a steward during that waiting period.
And the testimony of those who successfully held on to their vision, the ones who saw the delay as development, it's always focused on that transformation of perspective.
You just have to think about Joseph's final words to his brothers in Genesis 50.
You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good.
To bring it about that many people should be kept alive. That's the shift.
That transition from look at my status, which was the young Joseph, to look at my service and God's sovereign purpose, the mature governor. That's the clearest sign that the delay worked.
The waiting period made sure that when the power finally came, it was wielded by a mature steward, someone prepared to administer life and forgiveness, not vengeance.
The testing period doesn't prove the dream itself. The dream is already validated by God.
It proves the integrity and the resilience of the dreamer. It validates that the foundation is solid before the massive structure of the vision gets built on top of it.
Right.
Okay, so we've laid out the pattern. You have the early identity-defining vision. You have the mighty within, whether you feel like Joseph or Gideon. and you have the developmental delay. Now we have to move from theory to, practical introspection. How do you, the listener, actually reclaim a vision that you might have buried?
And we have to start by making a really detailed comparison between self-driven ambition and divinely driven vision.
Because it's so easy to confuse the two.
It is. This comparison is essential for clean self-examination, because one of the easiest ways to reject a God-given dream is to mislabel it as selfish ambition.
Especially if you relate more to the insecurity of Gideon.
Exactly. Ambition is so often driven by self. It's about what I want. And it's usually measured by things like success, wealth, status, all external metrics.
And divine vision.
Divine vision is driven by purpose. It's about aligning with God's design for your life to solve a problem, or build a capacity for the kingdom, or serve a specific group of people.
So it's about aligning with a divine flow, not just personal gain.
The key difference is the foundation. Ambition is built on your talent, your self-effort, your willpower. Divine vision is built on grace and God's design, and it often goes way beyond your natural talent, which forces you into dependence.
Which is uncomfortable.
Very. But while ambition has its place, it's just not the language of the mighty dwelling within. That language requires you to recognize that this extraordinary future has already been ordained. Your job is alignment and stewardship, not raw manufacturing of success.
Okay, so that clarity, that distinction, it allows us to prompt some immediate action for the listener.
Right.
We want to encourage you to be specific right now. What specific dream or ministry idea or career change?
Right.
What creative project did fear cause you to silence?
We often hide these dreams in vagueness. You have to name the specific thing you minimize.
And once you've named it, you have to ask the follow-up question.
Which is, are you currently guarding that dream, protecting its purpose, stewarding the small steps, maintaining the integrity it requires, or are you actively burying it out of caution?
Let's define those. What does it mean to guard the dream?
Guarding the dream means you understand its value is based on the giver, not on the validation it gets from other people.
So it's Joseph faithfully running Potiphar's household, even when the palace seemed impossibly far away.
It's Gideon faithfully reducing his army down to just 300 men, knowing that obedience to the divine strategy was more important than the human logic of overwhelming force.
And burying the dream.
Burying the dream is the fear-driven act of hiding it. It's when we hide the treasure because we're afraid someone will steal it, or worse, that we'll be laughed at if it doesn't happen when we think it should.
And that shows up as self-sabotage, right?
Absolutely. Making small, cautious choices that guarantee the massive vision can never take root. It guarantees minimal disappointment, sure, but it also guarantees minimal destiny.
So this is where we need to move into some actionable encouragement. The necessity of inviting God back into your imagination. If you've been living cautiously, avoiding disappointment by avoiding expectation, the first step is just spiritual vulnerability. It's reversing that fear-driven minimization.
And that means taking real time to pray over those dormant or forgotten dreams.
And this isn't about demanding that it happen tomorrow.
Not at all. It's about confessing, I let fear get louder than your promise, and I want to restore that alignment. I want to accept the burden of this vision again. It's an act of spiritual repentance and strategic realignment.
And what's the practical, physical step that the source encourages?
It's a common practice you see all through Scripture. It's the necessity of writing it down, clearly articulating the God-given vision.
Why is that act so crucial?
Because it brings the dream out of the nebulous world of maybe someday and into the immediate, tangible forefront of your identity. When you write it, you commit to it. You create an external measure for your internal faith.
You're taking tangible action that demonstrates faith, even if the vision feels impossible today.
You're saying, I believe this is so real that I have to allocate physical space and mental energy to it?
It's the courage required to invite God back into your imagination, back into your future expectations. It reverses the minimization that fear imposed on you.
It transforms the dream from a fleeting idea into a fixed point on the future timeline of your life.
You're daring to hope again. You're daring to trust that the process, no matter how long or hard the testing is designed for your development, not your denial. So the ultimate summary is this. Daring to dream is an act of obedience and trust. It's aligning yourself with the extraordinary future that already exists within you.
You're accepting your royal identity before you have the recognition, and that is the necessary first step for the mighty to emerge.
The entire journey of the dreamer is the journey of spiritual identity formation.
It's the steady, often agonizing, but ultimately glorious realization that ordinary people, whether they're arrogant teenagers or timid farmers hiding in a wine press, truly do carry extraordinary, divinely sanctioned futures.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the affirmation is simple, but it's really powerful. You aren't defined by your current limitations.
Or your past failures, or what other people think of you right now.
You are defined by the vision that was planted inside of you by a mighty God, whether you felt ready for it like Joseph, or completely inadequate for it like Gideon.
The mighty is already dwelling within. The real work is to live in alignment with that pre-existing potential.
The struggle isn't to create the capacity for the dream.
No, it's to steward the capacity you already have through all the necessary stages of testing and delay. Your purpose isn't something you have to go hunt down.
It's something you have to dare to uncover, to articulate, and then to protect with relentless integrity. This entire deep dive has been about the courage that it takes to dream again. So since that hidden greatness is already in your heart, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought.
A challenge.
Since you have, hopefully, named that buried dream and decided to reverse the minimization, what is the smallest, most immediate act of obedience or faith that you can take this week?
That acknowledges the truth of your royal identity before recognition.
Don't look for the palace right now.
No. Look for the small, faithful step of integrity you can take in your own personal prison cell, or that timid step of obedience you can take while you're still hiding in the wine press.
The dream is alive.
And the mighty dwelling within you is just waiting for your agreement.
Carry that recovered dream forward with faith. Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us today on From Manuscript to Ministry. If today's featured book encouraged, challenged, or inspired you, we invite you to take the next step, purchase a copy, and support the author behind the message. When you invest in their work, you're not just buying a book, you're sowing into good ground and helping advance the kingdom of God through faith-filled storytelling. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Your support helps these powerful voices reach even further. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, keep praying, and keep walking boldly in your calling. God is still turning manuscripts into ministries.